That's
Um,
better.
cool. All right. So again, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with us. So, um, first up, can you state your name and what you did for the Baltimore Orioles?
My name is Bruce Hoffman. I was executive director at the Maryland Stadium Authority and also the project manager for Camden Yards.
Hmm. So, can you describe what was the Camden Yards site like before the ballpark project?
I sure can. It was, I believe, about 100 acres of small businesses, some warehouses, an old power plant. Uh, it was an active site, and it went all the way from the north end of where Camden Yards is, all the way down beyond Raven Stadium. And so the first chore we had when I got there was to get all that land purchased in a big hurry. And we did pretty good. We 98% of it we bought, we negotiated. Everybody was happy, but the people that owned the warehouse, they didn't want it. They gave us a hard time, and we had to go to court. What's it called?
B&O Warehouse?
Yeah, the B&O warehouse. That didn't go so good. We thought it was worth 11 million, if my memory serves me right. They wanted 18 million. So we went to court, we paid them 11 million. Oh,
Yeah, we know it was owned by Willard Hackerman and Morton Max.
yeah.
Hackerman, believe, was also a board member for the Orioles too, which is really weird, at least in the early 90s.
He was a very, very powerful guy. I mean, I got in trouble with him early on in my career. Let me tell you the story.
Yeah, sure.
Um, First of all, when I selected a construction manager for Camden Yards, I didn't pick Whiting Turner. And Willard Hackerman owns Whiting Turner. At least he did at the time. Then there was a project downtown called the Christopher Columbus Center. It's right next to the aquarium. And I was on the selection committee. And the whole panel picked another contractor. But Willard said, that's strike two for me. And then there was a third thing that happened. And the next thing I know, I'm down in front of the governor explaining why I didn't pick Willard Hackerman. He was a very powerful guy. I was really mad at him, and I told him in front of the governor because he wasn't playing fair. He was playing it because he's a powerful guy. However, after that, we became very close friends. He was a very nice man, very generous, and in Whiting Turner Contracting, we selected later on as part of the team to do Raven Stadium. So, I really liked the guy, but I didn't like him in the beginning when he was kind of trying to overpower me. And I was just trying to do everything right. But I'm sure he's long gone now. He was not a young man when I was there.
Yeah, we know he passed away in 2014, so over a
Yeah,
decade ago.
yeah, I liked Willard though. I really truly did. But he owned, as you said, Morty Max and him owned the warehouse, and they wanted a hell of a lot more money than our appraisal said it was worth. So we did go to court and we did win. And that was the end. I think that was the third strike when we didn't pay him what he wanted for the warehouse. That's when I got in trouble with him. Anyway, it was kind of funny, but all good.
Um, can you basically go more into detail about what the Camden Yards site was like? Or you
Yeah.
sort of already did that, but yeah.
Well, I can't, I wish I could tell you how many businesses were there because I don't remember. Maybe 35 or 40 businesses. And as part of buying the site, there's obligations. You not only have to pay them a fair market value for their business, you have to pay the cost to relocate their business and set it up. There was a company I remember called Park Sausages, owned by a guy.
Yeah.
We had to help move them. Um, what else did we move? I'm sure there was a million businesses, but unfortunately, it's over 30 years ago. I don't remember all the names, but they all went. They were all good people. Oh, Hammerjacks was one of them. Remember that place, Hammerjacks? Maybe you
No.
don't. It was a big disco. I mean, a big disco. It held 500 people, I think, and but it was down in the bowels of Camden Yards' old site where it didn't bother anybody much. So we moved them. I can't remember. I'm in my neighbor's house, so sorry. We moved them up Charles Street, up that way somewhere north of the project, and everybody hated them up there because it was so disruptive and loud, drunk people and all that. And then there was trying to think what else we had there. So, like I said, it was about 35 businesses. But I remember Parks, I remember Hammerjacks. There was a big old power plant that I don't think they were using. Looked like it burned coal in its day. Big old disgusting thing. That we tipped over and hauled away. Um, Another interesting thing when we were excavating, we had an archaeologist come in and help us identify, help us kind of identify and record the site as to what was there when we were there now and maybe originally way back. And in short center field, once we excavated down for the ballpark, because the field is down below grade, maybe 25 feet, we ran into Babe Ruth's father's saloon. And the archaeologist helped us identify the bricks still from the lower foundation. So we got a bunch of those bricks, and he certified them, put a little plaque on them saying, and we gave them away as gifts. People loved them, because that was a big deal. Um, and then the warehouse was the biggest building on site. That was 1,100 feet long, 51 feet high, 8 stories above ground, and one below. And it was a dump. The end, way the heck south, they used to use for a place to keep the horses way back when they had horse and buggies hauling people through Baltimore. Well, the horses lived there at night, and they peed and made a mess all over that floor. It was rotten, when we got to it, and it stunk. So that was a big project just to try to get that cleaned up. But once we bought that warehouse, the next question, what are we going to do with it? We had obligations to the Orioles to put a fair amount of their offices and stuff in the warehouse. On the first level, we had a restaurant that's open when the baseball stadium was open. On the 7th or 8th floor, there was the Camden Club. And I don't even know if that still exists, but it was a high-end for season ticket holders restaurant they could use during and before and after the game. So we did a lot of work. The whole outside looked like crap. So we had to scrape out the mortar between every brick and redo it. They had patched it through the years, and the mortar in one spot was different than the mortar in another spot, and it really looked blotchy and everything. So that's a big building. We scraped out the mortar in every single joint, put new mortar in, put new windows in, put new roof on it, put new elevators in it. And then we rented the whole south end to a big international company that took the whole south end, paid us $2.5 million in rent way back then. It was pretty good. The north end was all Stadium Authority, Orioles business stuff, the whole thing. Our offices, when I was at the Stadium Authority, were there on the 5th floor. Still are, I believe. I wish I could tell you some more businesses. Maybe you can mention one and I'll tell you what I know about it. It's been too long.
We know that there was an elementary school, or not elementary, junior high school, middle school, Diggs Johnson.
Yes. I can't remember if they'd already left that when we were buying the property. I don't remember disrupting a school, that I don't remember.
Or a
But,
donut shop called Donut Delight.
oh, I remember that one. Yep, that one we definitely bought. And I don't know if he moved on or what. I can't remember that, but that was definitely there. And one of those 40 businesses or so that was there. They were nice people. I wish I could think a lot more of them, but like I said, it's 32 years ago that we, at least.
Do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah. So we know that the property was 85 acres. And so we would like to know, how was it determined which properties should be acquired?
I think we wanted to have 5,000 parking spaces for the Orioles. And we, at that time, when we were doing this project, we did not have a football team. But we always hoped we'd get one and plop it right down in that parking lot on the south end. And then the next question is, what are we going to do with the cars from the Orioles? But we bought everything from like Russell Street on one side and the road going out to 95 on the other. I mean, it was pretty well determined that we needed that space if we were ever going to handle the cars, and even more importantly, if we were ever going to have a football team, which then we did not know we were going to get one. But when we did plop that big stadium right in the middle of that parking lot, we lost a ton of parking. So we bought a little piece of property southwest of, there was an engineering firm, if my memory is right. We bought that little chunk of land and we picked up, it was right near the football stadium, so it was pretty good parking. We picked up enough for 100 cars or something. At that point, we were scrambling for every car spot we could get. But there was nothing else we could buy. I mean, it was nothing for sale, and our statute gave us the rights to condemn, if we had to, the property where we originally put Camden Yards, but we did not have power to go outside of that. The little piece that I was telling you we just bought from the engineering firm, they were happy to sell it. We were happy to buy it. There was no, so we didn't have to fight or anything.
Let's see. What happened to the businesses at the site? So the ones that you acquired, or the ones that you basically bought for Camden Yards?
Every single one of them. The law said that not only do we have to pay them fair market value for their business, we had to help them move. And that, I don't believe we had to buy their new site. That's what we paid them for the old one. But we did have to help them with all their moving costs and everything to relocate a business. We covered all that. And I don't believe every single business started over, but the bulk of them did. I don't like Donut Delight you mentioned. I can't remember if that ever opened up again. I know Park Sausages did. That was a big business. Hammerjacks did, was another big operation, but I can't remember all the little ones. But the bottom line was we had to treat them fairly. We weren't out to, to just shove people out of the way because we got a project. We had to negotiate with them. And as I said, every single one of those businesses, we were able to come to an equitable agreement other than the warehouse. That's the only one we ran into a little trouble.
And you already answered that. Diggs Johnson Junior High, which I mentioned, was on the site just outside of the ballpark footprint. Was acquiring the school different from acquiring a business?
I wish I could tell you. I don't remember. Certainly, we're dealing with probably Baltimore City. I would presume own that school. And Baltimore City was kind of our partner. So I don't remember anything hostile about that. I know if you know today, the Maryland Stadium Authority is doing like $2 billion worth of work for Baltimore City, renovating all their schools. But back then, honest to God, I don't remember anything that was, where we had any tension between us and the school people. I think they had a place to move to. I think we helped them. We paid them what they needed to make it right. And I think you said 98 acres. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I think we paid
85, sorry.
85 acres. We paid 98.4 million for the property. That's if my memory's right. That's pretty darn close to what we paid to help buy and move them.
See. Acquiring the warehouse was a lengthy process, which you told us about. And why do you think it was so difficult?
Well, I hate to use the word, but the people that owned it were a little greedy. But bottom line. They wanted way more than it was worth. And when the courts looked at it, which was sad that we had to go that direction, but when they looked at it, they agreed with us that fair market value was $11 million. And that's what we paid them. So that's why it was challenging. They just wanted way more. They're trying to hit a home run. Figured they had us in the corner. And we just couldn't let that happen. You know, it's taxpayer money we're spending.
So the building is very unique. Do you think that might be why Hackerman and Max found it difficult to agree on a price, or do you think it's just the G word?
No, I think there's some of that too. It's a very unique building. It's historic. I don't know where you can find a building 1,100 feet long and 51 feet high. I mean, I don't know anywhere. I've never seen one like that before. So it is a historic building, and I do see, you know, they were hoping, but when the day was over, we still had to pay them what the fair market value. I mean, we had a fiduciary responsibility to spend the taxpayer dollar right. And so we had to fight a little bit on that one, but we weren't wrong.
And what were other challenges that had to be what were the other challenges that had to be overcome in terms of the warehouse aside from just the market value and money?
Well, as I mentioned, it was a mess. You know, that's the nicest thing I could say about it. It had been an abandoned building, broken glass all over the place. The windows were all busted. There was pigeons living in there. There was bird poop everywhere. The horse stuff on the south end. The roof leaked. The elevators were non-functioning. I mean, there wasn't one thing that was right with that building other than the fact that it had potential. Even in the front of it, as I remember now, there was a little building jutting out in the front of it. We took it down. It just didn't it just didn't work right with moving people and everything. So it was a major building, and then it was maybe a 5 or 6 story building, if I remember right, poked out another 100 feet. So we decided to demolish it. Well, what happened then is the whole north end of the warehouse was gone. So we had to put brick up and had to match the rest of the building. And boy, I'll tell you, we bought brick from a little brick factory out in Hagerstown. And they came and looked at it, and they told us the brick we needed. It was perfect. You look at the north end of that warehouse today, you cannot tell that that's been replaced. It looks like the rest of the building. That whole north end, all 8 stories tall, is new. And then we wanted to match that brick to the stadium. So we used the same brick. It's perfect. I mean, you look at the stadium color and the warehouse, they look like they were built the same day.
That you are not wrong. So was there ever thought about acquiring the warehouse through eminent domain?
That's what we did. That's where we went to court. That's the word I was trying to remember, eminent domain. When they wanted 18 million and we wanted to pay 11, and we were at a stalemate, and the project's got to go. I mean, we were under a big gun to get this project started and get rolling. And we needed property before you could start digging a hole. So that's exactly what we did. We used eminent domain, and that means basically going to court and let the court help us settle. So that's exactly what we did. And thank God, as I mentioned, the court saw eye to eye with us and not with the owners of the building. We actually didn't have that extra. What did they want? 18? It was $7 million more than we wanted to pay. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to pay 11. They wanted 18.
Do you want to ask the next one?
Yeah. So can you tell us the story of Camden Station and kind of who owned it and what were some of the challenges bringing it back to life?
Well, that's a good question. The station was a mess. when we're building that stadium. So we quickly realized we got to do something, even if we don't do anything inside, the outside of the building. It's got to look good. It's the front door to that stadium. So, there's a big tower on each end. The one side, the tower was missing. I think it might have even connected into that building where we took the front off the warehouse. It might have connected into that. It leaked. So our architect, we hired an architect to kind of help us get drawings so we could have a company come and make the station look like it did in 1850, if my memory's right. And it's a famous train station. Abraham Lincoln went through it twice. He came through it when he was a young man going to Washington, and he went through it again after they shot him, and he was dead. They hauled him back to Illinois, where he came from. So that station's got a lot of history. So anyway, I can't remember the numbers. I think we had to spend like $2.5 million or something, and we fixed that whole building up on the outside. It looked beautiful. Inside, a mess. We didn't have any money for that or a purpose to do something with it at that time. So we cleaned it all up, put the towers back, had the architects go back in history and make sure it was representative of the building when it was built. And it turned out great. And then Babe Ruth Museum, I think the Babe Ruth Museum came, and we rented a chunk of that to them. And then on the other end, I wanted to put in a restaurant, figuring it would help the Babe Ruth Museum because you got people coming all the time and they would visit the museum. It'd be handy before games and after games. So I did an RFP to try to see who could be in that. And remember, the name Bo Brooks? I don't know if they're there anymore. It was a great crab house up in Baltimore County. So we selected them. I had a selection panel of people that knew what they were doing because I was not a great restaurant person, but I surrounded myself with a team. We selected Bo Brooks, and Peter Angelos went nuts. He said, if there's going to be a restaurant there, it's going to be my restaurant. I said, Pete, A, you don't own the building. B, we've already been through a public RFP and selected somebody, and you didn't even apply for the job. So that got ugly as hell. I don't know how it ended, but we never built a restaurant. Steve Jeppy, that name, I don't know if he's in that building today or not, but he came in with his business, and he was a part owner in the Orioles, just a little piece. And he built the other half up. So I don't know who's in it anymore. I haven't been there, in quite a while, if anybody. But that's what we did, and to this day, it looks nice on the outside. I hope there's somebody in it. It's a great building.
Let's see. Can you describe the warehouse's state? Or actually, sorry, you already did that. So there are some properties that I know deferred the MSA. So I think Lee's Furniture was one. Can you describe what happened there?
Well, I can't remember if you want the honest truth, but I do believe when we got finished, we bought everything in the property lines, including Lee's Furniture. I don't remember deferring it. If it was within the property, it was gone. We bought everything.
And do you have anything that comes to mind for you?
I don't know what's here.
All right. So the final question we have for you is, who else should we talk to about business at the site and how they were acquired?
There was, when I was hired in 89, I guess, we had quite a team of people who had real estate backgrounds to help us acquire this because 85 acres, we had just under $100 million, but we had a gun to our head. I mean, we got to get that property or we can't start the project. You got to own it before you can start digging big holes in it and knocking buildings down. And I remember, I'll get to your question in a second, but I remember we were excavating the bowl, the lower area in the baseball stadium, which is a big area. We had to bring it down about 25 feet. And we had a big hole here and a big hole here and a street still there because there was active businesses on it yet, which we couldn't shut down because we didn't own them yet. So we really had a gun to our head for schedule. The baseball stadium had to open on a certain day. If it didn't, Stadium Authority was, I think the lease said something, I don't know, we had to pay $1 million a game for every game that the Orioles couldn't play because it wasn't finished. It was a lot of money. So bottom line, there was a lot of pressure. But I had this team of people. There had to be 6 or 8 people. And some of them worked for the Department of Transportation. I'll tell you one guy that was very, very useful, a guy named David Chapin. Did you ever hear that name? David
Possibly.
Chapin. He, at that time, was a Department of Transportation employee, but he was on loan to the Maryland Stadium Authority. And then there was a group of people who were property acquisition experts. And, that's even longer ago because it was before we started the building. I can't think of any names anymore. But there were people helping me because I just moved to town and all of a sudden we got to buy all this land. So Stadium Authority was able to get some good people helping. Wish I could tell you. And I don't know, like Herb Belgrad would have been he would remember, but he's gone. I can't, and the people that helped me, they might be gone. It's a lot of years ago and they weren't kids when they were doing this, like you guys.
One final question I just thought of for you. So something I'm wondering is the MSA had mixed opinions about whether or not to keep the warehouse. And we know that Janet Marie Smith was a big reason why the warehouse was kept. Do you know exactly like what she saw in the warehouse to keep it?
Well, I don't know if I agree with what you just said.
Oh.
My first day on the job, I walked into a meeting in the Maryland Stadium Authority up on the 24th floor of the World Trade Center. There was a big table there and there was 15 people around it. And the whole purpose of that meeting, and I walked in off the street my very first minutes at the Stadium Authority. And I sat down next to a lawyer representing the Stadium Authority, and they were discussing to keep the warehouse or to let it go. And I would tell you, there was a little resistance from the Orioles to keep it. And I believe Larry Lucchino, who was the president of the Orioles at that time, and who I thought was a tough negotiator, but a great man, a really great man. And as years went on, he and I became very close, but tough negotiator. And I think he was fighting the warehouse so that we would have to give him a little more. So, he insisted on the stadium club in the warehouse and his offices all in the warehouse. They got more offices in that warehouse than you'd ever get tucked into a ballpark, I'll tell you right now. So they fought us a little bit from what I could hear at my very first meeting. And at the end, everybody was happy. We're keeping the warehouse. There was a deal with the Orioles on what they would get in the warehouse and what controls they would have of the warehouse. And it ended. I don't remember Janet Marie even being on the payroll yet at that meeting. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know what day she started, but this decision I'm talking about right now was February of 1989. I don't know when Janet started, but I didn't think she was there yet.
Okay. Yeah. It must have been conflicting information we heard. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah. Um, is there anything else you'd like to add for us?
You're mostly concerned with the property. I'm
Yeah.
taking it right now. Yeah. All I know is it was scary a little bit to buy all those businesses and get them as quick as we possibly could so we could start digging a hole and building the ballpark. And 99% of them went smooth as could be. With the warehouse, which was the fight, didn't affect us digging the hole. That was next to it, but some of the businesses were right in the middle of the ballpark. So it was Park Sausages, for example, was right there. But it went good. That's all I can tell you. Trying to remember back 30 some years already. It went good. And I think the state and the stadium authority treated all those property owners fairly, every single one of them. We went out of our way to not hurt anybody and be the big bully and push them out of the way.
Yeah. Thank you so much for meeting with us, and please also enjoy your vacation too.
Well, I'll tell you that what it is I have a home in Florida. I'm going to spend 6.5 months there. We're leaving tomorrow. So that's why, I get my house all put together to shut down here. And that's why Spectrum shut my cable off. So I'm at my brother's house next door. Yeah.
Where are you right now? Like not in Florida.
No, I'm in Clifton Park, New York, which is near Albany, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about 10 miles north of Albany.
Nice.
So I
sorry.
have family all over the place here, and so does my wife. And then we spent 5.5 months here and 6.5 down there, and we hit perfect weather year round.
But please enjoy Florida too.
I'm sure we will. And if I can help you with anything, I'm always willing to do it.